Sorry for the delay, guys. Wasn't even planning to do this. How could you plan for anything after that game? My goodness, but I had enough calls for it in our Discord. Patreon.com/SelbiasGodcast is how you come join that Discord. TJ, please come do a live show. And normally this would surprise a lot of people. I sort of pride myself on being able to perhaps think about things more critically and taking time to maybe not have the first reaction be the only reaction I have. How can I process anything after what I just witnessed? I tweeted it out. I don't think I could hate a game more than I hated this one. But at the end, God, you love it. My God, what a game. And I say that as certainly one that a person that wanted this series to continue because I enjoyed being able to talk with you guys, being able to talk with Zach, do our shows, which we will be doing a full Game 4 recap at some point, but it's not over. There is still more baseball to be played, and I've been writing sad notes, happy notes, different things I've been thinking for the last several hours, and by the time this game ended, I just ripped all that crap up. There's no sense in trying to make any sense of what we witnessed. Goodness gracious. From some of the managerial choices that were somewhat curious, let's say, but some of them actually ended up working out. It comes back to something we talked about after game 3, that you can feel like the process is great and it leads you to a place where you don't get good results. Sometimes the process might not be great, but you get great results. And oftentimes it's the players that make the manager look great. We say they did a great job when they call for the reliever and they get the 1, 2, 3. But when they give it up, we say, why? Why go to that guy? The players make these managers look good. That's the reality here. And we've been screaming for the past day and a half, 2 days, whatever it's been, about how Vogt has used pinch hitters. The starting lineup for Cleveland in game 3, at least Zach and I both came away from game 3 not being pleased with maybe just how it started. You throw all that out. After game 4, when you have David Fry in this ball game now against a righty, and what does this man do? Deposits one into the left field seats after a 7th inning that I thought was going to lead us to my biggest fear always. Austin Hedges was entering this game at some point, and he was going to be the last out. After Noel pinch hit, and then he was out. Rocchio out, 2 outs in the inning. Steven Kwan has been a man on fire in this series. Oh, that's such a welcome sight. And David Fry, the pinch hit, go-ahead 2-run jack, and David Fry not only doing it with a home run ball, doing it with a bunt too, to give you the necessary, and it really did prove to be necessary, insurance runs. I'm sorry, guys. I am struggling to have coherent thoughts after this game because I hated it so much, but my God, do I love being able to sit here and talk about it afterwards, knowing how this thing goes. So I wanted to hop on here because you guys wanted me here. I think there just wants to be some reaction. So I'm going to take some more time to really fully process and get after it with Zach on our full episode that we're going to do at some point here before game 5. How are we going to do this all over again? Tarek Skubal's on the mound, by the way, for Detroit. Have we seen yet what Cleveland plans to do? Nothing mentioned yet. We'll see what they intend to do because we saw how much Vogt relied on the bullpen in this game. Hey, you remember when Tanner Bybee started this game? That feels like a century ago. All this is on the table. I just want to get through here some of these comments that have rolled in here on YouTube, and I think I've got this figured out now. So let's lead things off with Derpy. Derpy Entertainment. Holy fudge indeed. Oh my gosh, guys. What else do we have here? Josh is here. Josh, my heart rate hasn't slowed down yet. Should I go to the hospital? There was at one point as I'm watching this, I'm thinking about, I already have been struggling. I'm 40 years old now. I've been struggling going to the doctor. Hey, your blood pressure is really high. You think I'm a Cleveland baseball fan? I'm a Cleveland fan for my entire life. Of course I have a high blood pressure. We're all going to have to see our doctors here by the end of this series. What do we got here? React Asylum. Harold Reynolds is in shambles. Why is he in shambles? Zachary, great excuse to mute Costas. I've lost all track of what's happening in that ball game, by the way, between the Yankees and Royals. Where do we even start with this? I mean, I don't know about you all, but when this game started, I was I had good feelings several hours before the game, but the closer you get to it, I don't know if it's just the lifetime Cleveland fan in me, whatever the case may be, but I start to think about all the ways that this could go wrong, right? It's I would love to say I have a positive outlook on it, but I can't. I can't lie to you. So I didn't really know. And then Cleveland got in and took that early lead, and I thought that would really help take a weight off of this offense that hadn't scored in 2 games. Going back, they had that 5 spot in game 1, and they had 2 more runs courtesy of David Fry, who played the hero today in that game 1, and then we're silent in game 2 and 3. Game 2, okay, Scooble, you had some chances, but I get it to an extent. Game 3, oh, that's painful because you had opportunities and you were 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Early in that game, I thought some of the missed opportunities really played a factor, perhaps in just kind of its snowballing as the game continues. Everyone's up there trying to play the role of hero, and the longer that scoreless streak goes, the more everyone's pressing. It's still a game played by humans. So I thought first inning to be able to get on the board, Lane Thomas drives in a run. Lane Thomas is having maybe not so quietly, having a pretty good series here, at least in terms of generating offense and driving in runs. He had the 3-run home run in game 1, drives in that first run, and I thought, great. But then Detroit, every time Cleveland would put a run up on the board, Detroit would answer. And then you had Bybee just struggling with his command early, everything elevated, everything up, and he to his credit, reeled it in. And then Jose the Bomb. And I thought, I'm sure like many of you, this is where you go to the bullpen, right? I think Stephen Vogt tried to get a little bit greedy there. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. Now, I also understand, and again, we're going to talk about all these different elements with Zach when we do the full episode. I'm really just trying to gather my thoughts and put them together for you this moment, but it's fun to just react moments after a game like this happens. I thought Vogt just got a little bit greedy. I understand you're at the point of a lineup where if you can get Bybee through that inning, that's the bottom of the lineup, then you go to Cade Smith. You're in a better position. And if it works the way that you want, then great. But I think all of us were kind of anxious to see the bullpen there. That's not what played out. And we saw a bullpen, there have been times in this series where they look a little bit more human, or they just look like young pitchers with inexperience pitching deep into a season like they've never done before. You're thrusting them in these very important situations, relying on them with no margin for error. I'm not going to kill anybody in that bullpen for being a little bit more human in this series. But Cleveland finding a way when they're down by a run in the 7th inning with David Fry off a righty, just as we all begged for, right? God, just rolling through thoughts of this game. I had the best intentions in game 1. Every thought I had, I have a notebook here. Every thought I had, I would jot it down. I realized I was going insane with the amount of thoughts that I was trying to coherently put together. There's no coherency. Is that even a word? When you look at a game like this, none. So let's get to more of your reactions, because I'm still struggling to put together the way I feel after this game. MJ Kuehl brought tickets Tuesday night, 6-0 at home 6-0 at home playoff games. Nice. Thank goodness you'll be there. All week we would lose I lost it there. We would lose Wednesday, win tonight, and TJ, we're blowing them out Saturday night. Okay. For all of our heart's sake, I hope you're speaking truth. Hannah, thank you, Quan and Rokio, for the consistency. I'm glad that this series continues, because if Cleveland lost this game, I think it would be easy to forget the series that Rokio is having. He's had some of their best at-bats. Yes, Stephen Kwan has been fantastic at the top of the lineup, And it's kind of gone unnoticed because before this game, the two previous, you had nothing. But it wasn't Stephen Kwan's fault. He was generating the offense at the top of the lineup. It's just the guys behind him were not coming through. So that's important. We screamed about that for months when he was in the midst of his slump. I'm wondering maybe some time away at the end of the year. I know he was banged up, but maybe just a mental reset was helpful for him. We'll talk more about Kwan. Rokio, he's really had some quality at bats at the bottom of the lineup, has not been some automatic out down there. So, Hannah, thank you for bringing that up. Ben, still haven't seen Gavin Williams yet in this series. Just saying, perhaps the Guardians, are they going to go with Boyd? Are they going to go with Williams? I haven't seen anything post game. You wanted to get through this game first, and you also wanted to see how banged up your pitching is going to be. Thank goodness you've got an off day now, and so you can manage the workload you had to roll through with everybody. But still, again, we're talking about young pitchers, either inexperienced in big league action beyond this year, or in the case of like Hunter Gaddis, he's got big league experience, but not pitching like this deep into a season, thrusting a lot on them. That's why you'd like to give them a little bit more margin for error. Even Emmanuel Clase, a 3-run home run in game two. So my cat's even celebrating in game two. He was coming in the 8th inning here, which maybe Zach and I were texting about this. You could have made a case that he should have started that 8th inning instead of Tim Herron, because there's a good chance you're probably going to bring in Clase anyway. And so would you rather do that in a clean inning compared to having some traffic on the bases? Whew. So some escape actism being done there, and then of course they were able to get to him for a run in the final frame. Thank goodness that bunt laid down by David effing Fry, says Smokey Gator hanging out with us. David Fry, my goodness. True, Cleveland is going to be nuts on Saturday night. I hope so. So I've seen some people say that perhaps the broadcasts are dulling down some of the crowd noise. Now, I haven't been at these games, so I can't compare what I heard live and in person to what we're seeing on the broadcast. Maybe someone that has been there and then went back and saw the highlights can tell us whether or not are they doing something to the crowd noise to make it less loud. I've even seen some of that with I believe the Royals series. I'd seen someone complaining about that, but going to be a fun atmosphere. Oh my goodness, I can't even speak. Fun atmosphere for sure. Easy for me to say. Aaron says that was something. Sans a few folks, ABs were so much better today. Their bullpens feel gettable all of a sudden. I mean, we talked about this before the series even began. The more you see there, I don't know if this is real or not, but there's always that narrative that the more you see of a pitcher, the more it's going to benefit the batter. You have a better idea of what they're throwing, and in a short window, too, that maybe even is a bigger deal. When you're talking about over the course of a season, like we could talk about Bybee facing the Tigers so many times, and I know some of the names have changed, so it's not exactly the same team, but still, a starter over the course of a season when you see him in April, then you see him in June, and then you see him in August, they're not the same version of themselves every single time you see them. But in a 5-game playoff series, guys aren't reinventing themselves between games too often. I mean, maybe you make some subtle changes to what you're going to throw. So seeing a guy in the bullpen, maybe you get more on time. Maybe you pick up little quirks in the delivery that help you determine whether it's going to be the fastball or the slider or the splitter or what have you. It was a concern when we were talking about Cleveland relying on the bullpen the way that we knew they were going to have to in this series to succeed. They're probably going to have to do that in Game 5. Does Detroit have some advantage? I mean, again, Cleveland's bullpen has looked a little bit more mortal here. Not terrible, but more mortal. Not quite one of the greatest bullpens I've ever seen, just really good. So I'm curious, will this be a chance for Cleveland to also feel like they're getting better at-bats against Detroit pitching? Will it even matter because you're facing Tarek Skubal? You had 2 real big opportunities in Game 2 where they hit into double plays pretty much immediately after they had some of that traffic, and that was it. I mean, he looked fantastic. Are they better because they're seeing him? in a shorter window? Does it matter when you see a guy as good as he's been this year? I mean, if his stuff is as good and as crisp as it was in game two, maybe it doesn't matter. But that's a problem for tomorrow and the next day. Let's just dwell on this a little bit because it was fun. Donnie, guards till I die. Well, unfortunately, if we keep having games like game four, that die is going to be coming sooner for some of us than later. Surviving this game, I think we all deserve a medal, right? I actually don't think anything about Vogt's pinch hitting strategy changed. He would have done it with runners in scoring position, but it didn't happen early in the game. Agree. You know, it was Zach and I are also talking about this. I anticipate on our full episode we'll get into it. So you were seeing him super aggressive in game three, and it wasn't that I didn't see what he was trying to accomplish in being aggressive. It's just I felt like maybe starting the game I would have had a different, like, let's take John Kensey Noel. I don't have a problem with him being the hitter that got up in the second inning in game three. I just felt like maybe he should have just started the game, and if Montero sticks around, fine. But leave him in the game, save Will Brennan. If nothing else, he's a decoy later in the game, or he's a pinch runner, or he's a guy that prevents Angel Martinez from having to hit, or Austin Hedges having to hit. Just holding him back would have been my preference. But we saw a guy that was super aggressive in game three, talking about Stephen Vogt, and then he stuck with his left-handed hitters in this game against some left-handed pitching, and then he holds Fry back for the seventh inning. He brings him in as a pinch hitter. You knew at that point, I mean, maybe you didn't know, but you had a pretty good indication that at that point you were going to see Detroit go to the bullpen. That's when they bring in Bo Brisky, and then David Fry off the righty hits the home run. Just throw out whatever we think we know, because these players, they decided on the field. And sometimes, as we said to begin the live stream, you have a great thought, you have a great process, and you don't get the good results. Sometimes you have a crap process and you make the wrong call, but the player makes you look smart. Somewhere in the middle, I think, for Fry. I understand. I'm with Vogt here. I would have rather had Fry off of and I'm not saying this with the benefit of hindsight, but I would have liked the righty-righty matchup of Fry here compared to the lefty-lefty matchup of Manzardo. But I'm with you. It wasn't interesting that we saw almost an over-course correction in this game. Ended up paying off. Oh, so many. Okay, let's get through some of these. True. The players save Vogt from some questionable decisions, in my opinion. Yeah, I really want to get into some of those deeper with a little bit more critical thinking, which is going to it's going to require some time. As you guys can see, this game has just completely messed me up as far as trying to have a coherent thought. I struggle enough with that. I don't need the help of this game to throw me off completely. Brad Buckeye. I didn't get nervous till Fry hit that home run. Then they sat in that ninth inning. Then they sat in that ninth inning. I don't know. Woo. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you, Brad. Brandon, let's see. Thoughts on Bibee back out in the fifth? We talked about that a little bit. I think we all were kind of anxious to see the bullpen in that spot. And I get it. You're facing the bottom of the lineup. If Bibee can finish that off, then you are set up beautifully for the rest of that game. If all goes according to plan. It didn't. And I feel like Bibee had done such a great job of reeling in whatever was happening early. He could not find the strike zone at all with anything other than some of his breaking stuff. And at some point, Detroit, they got wise to that. And so that's what they were sitting on. And I felt like take the victory. After you get through four, Jose hits the bomb, go to the bullpen. I'm not saying I don't understand the thought process, but I would have much rather just gone to the bullpen there, clean inning, start fresh. You've got the lead, and be happy that with the fact that whatever was happening with Bibee, he got you through four, and you had the lead. That's what I would have done. Vogt went a different direction. Almost bit them, but David Fry playing the role of Superman here. Josh, yeah, more love for Rocchio. Agreed. He deserves it for the series he's had to this point. Vogt needs to go to some of the other bullpen arms Saturday. New looks. They're getting on to Gaddis and Heron, and I don't want Clase to go longer than an inning on Saturday. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Oh, this is in response to Harold Reynolds. You don't remember the comments Reynolds made about us being lucky? Okay, I got it. Luck merchants. I got it. Sorry, I don't. I guess I've just stopped paying attention to Harold Reynolds. That's my excuse here. Joshua, does a Kerry Carpenter injury change strategy for Game Five? Maybe now you feel better with a right-handed pitcher opener to get some other lefties in. Yeah, I mean that we'll see what happens there. That was surprising, a happy surprise for Guardians fans. Certainly, I'm sure Tiger fans were a little nervous about that. Let's see here. Let's go guards, but let's go guards ball. Say's world. Thank you. Let's see here, Kyle. Keep thinking about that Hedges to Bybee quote about even Scooble's 2-something ERA means he gives up 2. Hedges meant to tell Bybee not to sweat the small stuff, but now I see those 2 runs as a chance. Yeah, no. Thank you, Michael. No announcement for Game 5 starter. Not surprised there. Donnie. Game 2 was loud, or Game 1 was loud. Game 2 was quiet in person. I couldn't tell a noticeable difference just watching the broadcast, so I don't know. But I have seen more than one person talk about the crowds being quieter on television than it was in person. So I don't know. Got to get somebody from TNT, TBS, whatever it is. Got to hold them accountable here and see if they're doing something to the crowd noise. What else do we got here? Modern baseball has been around since the 1920s. Don't reinvent the wheel. It has been around for a long time. I would say the game looks drastically different than it did in the 1920s. Tony, my guts hurt after that one. But I do it 9 more times for a title. Okay. Yeah, you think if we all get the guarantee of the title at the end? Sure. Donnie, thank you for streaming tonight. It's quite embarrassing because I did not initially have plans. To be truthful, up until about 5 seconds before I hit start on the stream, I've been putting my 2 kids to bed. so, so I had the game day up. I had Hammy up. I had the sound on. I had it turned down quiet enough that it wasn't interrupting the story I was telling my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter. And then I shuffled over to my 8-year-old's room, helped him get to bed, and then I was getting messages, and so I guess I got to pop on for a stream, give my wife a kiss, and head down here and hang out with you guys. It's fun, even if I have no coherent thoughts. Ryan, Rocchio in the 2-hole Saturday. I don't know that I would go that far, but again, Rocchio has had a good series as far as good at-bats, whether it's working walks or having a few hits at the bottom of the lineup. Him and Stephen Kwan, I feel like those 2 guys are doing their part to make some traffic for the guys that are supposed to drive in runs. It's either been a case where they don't drive in the runs, or if Fry going back to Game 3, a screamer off the bat that had a 102 mile per hour exit velocity, a 800 expected average, and finding the glove of Vierling at third base. The lesson learned here in the 7th inning of tonight's game, if you hit it over the fence, far less chance that they're going to catch it. Although Detroit tried their best. Donnie, I needed this. The game or the live stream? I'll say the game for sure. The live stream, I think that's questionable. Tony, he wants to swap Rocchio and Jimenez in the lineup. More love for Rocchio. It's all about what have we seen recently. I love that about us. On the topic of Jimenez, I truly wonder what happened to Jimenez's offense this year. It has been extremely disappointing. And thinking about that more, it's just the playoffs continued. I love the skill set, love the defense. I like the fact that this is a guy that can impact the game in several ways when he's at his best. But, man, such a disappointment, the offensive side of things taking a step back the way that it was. I was hopeful that we were going to see even some sort of splitting the difference between 22 All-Star Jimenez and 23 Jimenez, but he was even worse just purely offensively this year. I know he's still young. What is he entering his age 26 season next year? So he might be in set up for another breakout just because that's often when a lot of people might have that breakout, the age of 26, 27, when you're really in your prime. I'm hopeful that we're going to see that. I think the team is too, considering the payday they gave him and his salary is only going to give up. But sorry, conversation for a different day when I'm not just overjoyed that we get to continue these conversations for at least one more game. Brandon, why am I going to Philly this weekend for the Browns and not Cleveland for game five? I blew it. I guess you did, Brandon. Let's see here. Brad, I kind of like Rokio and Quan back to back in the lineup. I mean, you can have that when they're 9-1. Mm, good point here by React Asylum. Streaks over, won an elimination game, first time in 27 years. That did not feel like a real stat. That you had to go back to Game 6 of the 1997 World Series to see this team win a game where their backs were against the wall. That did not feel real. How is that? How has it been that long? And it's not like I would understand it more if the Guardians or the Indians in the past were a team that never made the postseason. They've been to the playoffs so many times, going back to 1997, and to Game 6 of the 97 World Series being the last time that happened. My God, how is that possible? Speaking of 97, anybody reminded of Game 4 of the ALDS against the Yankees with the way that this game ended up? That's a game that they were behind, and Sandy Alomar hit the home run in the 8th inning off of Mariano Rivera. And Cleveland never looked back. They took Game 5 too on to take down the Orioles and go all the way to the World Series to that game we're talking about. It kind of not quite the same sort of game, but I had flashbacks to that because, again, we're talking about a Game 4 here where you have a late go-ahead pinch hit, in this case, home run by David Fry. Matthew, I'd like to see us break up the Jimenez, Bo, Brennan order to avoid the lefty relievers. Seems like we need to at least separate Bo and Jimenez. I mean, that's fair, sure. Hannah, do we think it will be Boyd on Saturday? I really don't know. I haven't seen anything post-game so far, any indication. But do you live with what Boyd did in Game 2 and just accept that as the victory? Do you say that he had some pretty good success? I know it wasn't quite as pretty as it was for Skubal, but the end result was still pretty good. Do you just rely on that again? Seeing that the bullpen is a little bit just a little bit more mortal in this series, does that give you pause to just say, oh well, it should just be purely a bullpen game? You should go with Walters to start it, or I don't know, Joey Cantillo to start it, just to force Detroit to do something with all their lefties in the lineup. Do you get that cute? Do you just hand the ball back to the veteran pitcher that was very good for you in Game 2? I'm not getting paid to make these decisions, thankfully. I just get to sit here and criticize them when they go wrong. Corey, what's with Jimenez's love affair with bunting? Has he lost confidence? I thought that at points last year that maybe he just would rather bunt than actually swing away, but I think he just feels like that's part of his game. And I don't mind the surprise attack bunt every once in a while from him because he can do it. Especially, it can be frustrating if, let's say, he's in the middle of a hot streak and he gives away an at-bat. I hate to say give away an at-bat because he can pull off a hit. Maybe it's just when you're struggling, you're just trying to see the bat hit the ball and just trying to create something. Saturday is going to be a ton of fun. Let's go, Guardians. I hope it is a ton of fun, and I hope we get just to continue to do this. Because I do love just hanging out even when these are just surprise shows. Skubal or no Skubal, the Tigers are going to crack under pressure, says B Skrills. Who is the pressure back on? Is it still on Cleveland? Is it on Detroit? Because sometimes you feel like there's more pressure when you're set up to win the game. You would be favored to win a game where the guy that we all believe is going to win the Cy Young Award is taking the ball for you in Game 5. Is there more pressure on you to win in that game? Cleveland was supposed to lose in Game 4, so now they're playing with house money. I don't pretend to know. Trying to figure out who's got the momentum in this series. Oh, it's clearly Cleveland after they score 5 in the first inning of game 1 and just knock Detroit on their ass. Oh no, it's clearly Detroit. And they have no reason why they're going to lose game 4 until they do. And it's David Fry off a righty providing the go-ahead blast. I won't pretend to know what's going to happen in game 5. That's what I hate about game 5. That's what I love about game 5. Traveled all the way from Louisiana to Detroit to catch them play. Atmosphere was great. I was scared when Fry came up, but he showed out tonight. Thank you for being here. I'm going to guess Roshi. And let's see here. Josh, you'll be the final comment tonight. Fry's home run woke my kids. My kids were still awake. I was trying to get them wrapped up and ready for bed. And here's another secret. Sometimes when there's just too much happening for me to mentally deal with, like sitting down to watch the game, I will think, you know what? I'm going to have to get these kids to bed eventually. I have way too much pent up energy watching this. So instead of pacing back and forth, I'm going to do something constructive and get my kids to bed. It helps me deal with a situation that I otherwise would be ripping what is left of my hair out completely. But I think, okay, let's put the kids to bed. I can be focused on trying to get their teeth brushed and jammies on and off to La La Land. So they can dream like everyone was dreaming of a Game 4 victory for Cleveland. And my gosh, guys, we've got a Game 5. Who's ready for that? After watching Game 4, I'm not sure I'm ready for a Game 5. Regardless, here it comes. So Saturday is going to be a heck of a time. I would say let's all promise to take the fun elements away from a Game 5. There's a lot of teams and fan bases that would love to be in this position here. But as I was kind of preparing to talk about if they lost Game 4, there's a time and place to enjoy those things. If you have the bad experience, it's not right after that. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. Thanks for hanging out and being here and helping me talk through this. I hope everyone had a good time. And Zach and I will sit down and do a full show where I'm going to promise to actually put together complete sentences, and we'll have fun. The Guardians forcing a Game 5 with a 5-4 win, and David Fry is your hero of all heroes. A 2-run go-ahead home run, and then the insurance that proved crucial insurance. Because Clase ends up giving up one in the ninth inning, but thanks to that bunt, a bunt and a home run, making sure we all leave happy. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you at some point later. Bye-bye.